Doctor's four eyes moved quickly across the screens in front of him. The blue light from the monitors made his pale green skin look almost silver. He was the head scientist for the coalition, and right now, he was very worried. The mining colony on 442C had stopped talking to them 3 days ago. The last message they got was not good. The colonists were screaming about monsters coming up from deep underground. Then nothing, just silence. "Sir," said his assistant Jenna. She was from the species and had 6 thin arms that moved like grass in the wind. "We just got the probe data back from the colony." Looked at the new information on his screen. His stomach dropped. The colony buildings were damaged. Some were completely destroyed. But the worst part was what the sensors found in the underground tunnels. There were hundreds of large life forms moving around down there. They were big, armored, and seemed to be working together. "These creatures," said slowly, "they are not in our database. We have never seen anything like them before." The coalition was made up of peaceful plant-eating species. They had been exploring space for over 200 years, but they had never run into serious predators. Most of the worlds they lived on were safe and quiet. The worst animals they dealt with were things like large birds or swimming creatures that mostly just wanted to be left alone. "What do we do?" asked Jenna. "Our security forces are not trained for this kind of problem." Knew she was right. The coalition's military was mostly for keeping peace between different groups. They had some defensive weapons and shields, but they were not hunters or fighters. They had never needed to be. "We need help," said. "Send out a message to all known space-traveling species. We need experts in pest control and wildlife management. Offer them good payment for their help." Jenna started working on the message right away. She was careful to explain that they needed specialists who could deal with dangerous animals. The message talked about aggressive fauna and hostile environment cleanup. She sent it out to every space communication network they knew about. The message traveled through space for days. It reached many different species and organizations. Most of them read it and decided they were not interested. Dealing with unknown predators on a faraway planet sounded dangerous and not worth the trouble. But the message also reached Earth. On Earth, the message arrived at the Interstellar Commerce Division in Geneva. The office was busy and full of people trying to handle Earth's new relationships with alien species. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 5 years, and everything was still new and confusing. A young clerk named Tom was the first person to read the message. Tom had been working at the division for only 6 months. He was still learning how to translate alien languages and understand what different species meant when they used certain words. When Tom read about aggressive fauna specialists and hostile environment cleanup, he thought it sounded like a military job. The words reminded him of the kind of work that private military companies did. He had heard about companies that specialized in dangerous situations and extreme environments. Tom forwarded the message to his supervisor, who also thought it sounded like military work. The supervisor sent it to another department, and then another. Each person who read it became more sure that the aliens were asking for armed professionals, not scientists with bug spray. Finally, the message reached the office that handled military contracts. A woman named Lisa Park read through it and nodded. This looked like exactly the kind of job that Earth's private military companies were good at. She knew just who to call. Terra Dynamics was one of Earth's best private military companies. They specialized in working in dangerous places where regular soldiers could not go. They had teams that could work in deserts, jungles, underwater, and even in space. Their motto was "No environment too extreme." Captain Sarah got the call while she was training with her team in the Canadian wilderness. She was a tall woman with short black hair and scars on her hands from years of dangerous work. When Lisa Park explained the job, Sarah listened carefully. "So these aliens have some kind of pest problem?" Sarah asked. "And they need it cleaned up." "That's right," Lisa said. "They're offering very good money. The animals are described as armored and aggressive. Sounds like something your team can handle." Sarah thought about it. Her team had dealt with everything from wild animals in war zones to cleaning up after industrial accidents. How hard could some alien creatures be? "We'll take the job," Sarah said. "When do we leave?" 3 days later, Sarah and 11 other humans were on a ship called the Cerberus, heading toward 442C. The ship was designed for military operations and was full of weapons, armor, and equipment for dealing with hostile situations. Meanwhile, Doctor was feeling hopeful for the first time in days. They had gotten a response from something called Terra Dynamics. The message said they were sending a team of experienced specialists who were used to dealing with dangerous animals in extreme environments. "They should arrive in 1 week," told the Coalition Council. "These Earth humans seem very confident they can solve our problem." Council leader, who looked like a tall blue flower with several heads, swayed thoughtfully. "Earth humans. We have not had much contact with their species. What do we know about them?" Checked his files. Not much. They are a relatively new species to galactic society. They come from a planet called Earth. It says here that their world has varied climates and ecosystems. "That sounds normal," said. "Are they experienced with pest control?" Their message said they specialize in extreme environment operations. Read. "That sounds exactly like what we need." None of the aliens thought to check what extreme meant to a species from Earth. They just assumed it meant the same thing it meant to them, maybe slightly warmer or colder weather, or dealing with animals that were a little bigger than usual. It was getting closer to their location. Sarah and her team were preparing their equipment and reviewing what little information they had about the creatures they would face. To them, it sounded like a straightforward job. Some animals were causing trouble, and they needed to be removed. They had done similar work dozens of times before. Neither the humans nor the aliens realized they were about to meet beings whose definitions of dangerous and extreme were very, very different. The Cerberus dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the fleet. Captain Sarah stood on the bridge, looking through the main window at the alien ships. They looked peaceful and clean, with smooth curves and soft colors, nothing like the military ships she was used to seeing. "They look friendly enough," said Sergeant Martinez, standing next to her. He was a big man with dark skin and calm eyes. "Kind of pretty, actually." Sarah nodded. The alien ships reminded her of flowers or seashells. There were no visible weapons or armor plating. These people clearly lived very different lives than humans did. "Captain," came a voice over the communication system. It was translated by the ship's computer, but it still sounded strange and musical. "This is Doctor of the Coalition. We are very happy you have come to help us." "Good to meet you, Doctor," Sarah replied. "We're ready to get to work. Can you tell us more about the pest problem you're having?" There was a pause. "Pest problem? Oh yes, the dangerous animals. Would you like to come aboard our ship to discuss the situation?" An hour later, Sarah and 3 of her team members were walking through the alien ship. The hallways were wide and bright, with plants growing along the walls. The gravity was lighter than Earth normal, which made walking feel bouncy. The air smelled like flowers and rain. Doctor met them in a large meeting room. He was tall and thin, with pale green skin and 4 large eyes. When he saw the humans, his eyes got even bigger. "You are very different from what we expected," he said slowly. Sarah looked down at herself and her team. They were wearing their standard gear military uniforms, boots, and equipment belts. Each of them carried weapons and tools for dealing with dangerous situations. She supposed they might look a bit intimidating to peaceful aliens. "We're here to get the job done," she said. "What can you tell us about these creatures?" Doctor led them to a table where he showed them pictures and data on screens. The creatures looked like large dogs, but with hard shell-like skin covering their bodies. They had sharp teeth and claws, and the pictures showed them moving in groups. They came up from deep underground tunnels, Doctor explained. They destroyed our equipment and chased away all our colonists. We have never seen anything like them before. Sarah studied the images. The creatures looked dangerous, but not impossibly so. She had seen worse things in nature documentaries about Earth's oceans and jungles. "How many are we talking about?" asked Martinez. "Our sensors detected several hundred, possibly more," Doctor said. "They seem to be very intelligent and work together as groups." Corporal, the team's tech expert, was looking at the colony data. "The planet has 1.3 times Earth gravity and a thick atmosphere," she said. "Shouldn't be too bad to work in." Doctor's eyes widened. "You consider those conditions acceptable for your species?" "Sure," shrugged. "It's like working in the mountains but with heavier air. We've done jobs in much worse places." "Much worse?" Doctor asked faintly. Sarah decided to be helpful. "Oh yeah, we've worked in deserts where the temperature hits 50 degrees Celsius, jungles with poisonous everything, and underwater facilities. One time we had to clear out a facility that had been flooded by toxic waste. Earth has some pretty challenging environments." Doctor was quiet for a long moment. "Your sounds very dangerous." It's not that bad once you get used to it," Martinez said. "Sure, we have some wildlife issues. Sharks, bears, venomous snakes, spiders that can kill you in minutes, but you learn to deal with it growing up." The color was draining from Doctor's green skin. "Did you say spiders that can kill in minutes?" "Only some of them," Sarah said quickly, trying to be reassuring. "Most of our spiders are harmless, and we have lots of other dangerous animals too, so the spiders aren't really the main problem." "Other dangerous animals." Doctor's voice was getting very quiet. "Tigers, crocodiles, polar bears, electric eels, poison dart frogs," listed cheerfully. "Oh, and jellyfish. Some of those are really nasty. Plus all the natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, floods, forest fires." Doctor sat down heavily in his chair. His assistant, Jenna, was making small, worried sounds with her 6 arms moving frantically. "Doctor," Sarah asked, "are you feeling all right?" I need to check some files," Doctor said weakly. "Please make yourselves comfortable. We will talk more soon." After the humans left, Doctor rushed to his computer terminal. He opened the file that contained Earth's environmental data. He had not looked at it carefully before because he thought he was hearing pest control experts, not studying their home planet. As he read, his worst fears came true. Earth's surface temperature ranged from -89 degrees to +58 degrees Celsius. The planet had active volcanoes, massive storms, and weather patterns that could destroy entire cities. The atmospheric pressure varied wildly in different locations. There were areas of the planet where the radiation levels would kill most known life forms. But the wildlife data was what made Doctor's blood run cold. Earth had thousands of species that could kill humans, and humans still lived there successfully. There were predators that could run faster than most coalition vehicles. There were tiny creatures whose bites could cause death in hours. There were plants that could poison anyone who touched them. The file described Earth as what galactic scientists called a Class 12 death world. A planet so hostile to life that most species would die there within days, if not hours. And the humans lived there. They grew up there. They thought it was normal. "Jenna," Doctor called to his assistant, "contact the Coalition Council immediately. We have a serious problem." "What kind of problem, sir?" Doctor looked at the data one more time, hoping he had made a mistake. He had not. "We asked for pest control specialists," he said slowly. "Instead, we accidentally hired a species of apex predators from one of the most dangerous planets in known space." "Should we cancel the contract?" Jenna asked. Doctor thought about the monsters in the underground tunnels. Then he thought about the humans, who seemed to think living with deadly animals was perfectly normal. "No," he said finally, "I think we might actually need them." On their ship, Sarah was reviewing the mission data with her team. The job seemed straightforward enough. Some animals were causing trouble, and they needed to be dealt with. It was the kind of work they did all the time. "The aliens seem nice," Martinez commented. "A little nervous, but nice." "They're probably not used to dealing with dangerous situations," Sarah said. "We'll take care of their problem quickly and professionally." None of the humans realized that to the aliens, they were more terrifying than the monsters they had come to fight. The shuttle carrying Sarah's team broke through the clouds of 442C and headed toward the abandoned mining colony. Through the windows, the planet looked peaceful. Rolling hills covered with purple grass stretched to the horizon, and strange blue trees grew in neat clusters. "Nice-looking place," commented Martinez as he checked his equipment one last time. "Reminds me of that mission we did in Colorado, but with weird colors." Sarah nodded. The gravity was heavier than Earth normal, but not by much. The atmosphere was thick and humid, like a summer day in Florida. For humans who had trained in every kind of environment Earth could offer, this felt almost like a vacation. Doctor's voice came through their communication system from orbit. "Are you sure you do not need environmental suits? The atmospheric pressure is 1.4 times your Earth normal, and the air has high concentrations of moisture." "We're good, Doc," Sarah replied. "This is actually pretty comfortable." There was silence from the alien ship above them. Doctor was probably trying to understand how creatures could find this environment comfortable when it would be deadly to most coalition species. The shuttle landed near the mining colony. The buildings looked intact from the outside, but as the team got closer, they could see the damage. Metal walls had been torn open. Equipment was scattered and broken. There were deep claw marks in the concrete floors. "Whatever did this was strong," said, running her fingers along a gouge in a steel beam that was 5 centimeters deep. Private Stevens, the team's youngest member, was looking at tracks in the dirt outside the main building. "Multiple species," he said. "Different sizes. They were definitely working together." Sarah activated her communication link. "Doctor, we're at the colony site. We can see evidence of coordinated attacks. These creatures are definitely intelligent." "Please be very careful," came Doctor's worried voice. "Our colonists said the creatures were unlike anything they had ever seen." The team spread out to investigate different buildings. Each person carried sensors, weapons, and recording equipment. They moved carefully but confidently, the way they had been trained to do in dangerous situations. It was Martinez who found the entrance to the underground tunnels. A large hole had been torn through the floor of the main storage building. The edges were smooth, as if something with incredibly sharp claws had cut through the metal like paper. "Found their way in," Martinez called to the others. "Tunnel entrance in Building 7. Sarah came over to look. The hole was about 3 meters across and perfectly round. Below, she could see rough stone walls descending into darkness. "Artificial tunnels," observed, scanning with her equipment. "These were carved out, not natural caves. Whatever made these has been planning this for a while." Sarah made the decision. "We go down. Standard formation, full sensors. Let's see what we're dealing with." The team descended into the tunnels using rope and climbing gear. The walls were covered in the same smooth cuts they had seen upstairs. Every few meters, there were side passages leading deeper into the ground. "It's like a maze down here," Stevens whispered into his radio. "Stay together," Sarah ordered. "Mark every turn. We don't want to get lost in here." 20 minutes into their exploration, they found the first creature. It was sleeping in a small chamber off the main tunnel. About the size of a large dog, it had thick armored skin that looked like it could stop bullets. Its head was long and narrow, with rows of sharp teeth. Even asleep, it looked dangerous. "That's what they were afraid of," Martinez whispered, studying the creature through his scope. Sarah was taking pictures and measurements. It's well designed for fighting, I'll give it that, but it's just an animal. The creature stirred and opened its eyes. For a moment, it stared at the humans with obvious intelligence. Then it made a sound, a deep, rumbling call that echoed through the tunnels. That was a warning call, said urgently. It's alerting the others. From deeper in the tunnels came answering calls, many answering calls. How many do you think are down here? Stevens asked, checking his weapon. Doesn't matter, Sarah said calmly. We came here to do a job, let's do it. The first attack came 5 minutes later. 3 creatures rushed around a corner, moving faster than should have been possible for something with armor that thick. They worked as a team, trying to surround the humans. The team reacted with practiced efficiency. Martinez and Stevens took positions to cover the flanks while Sarah handled the frontal assault. The fight lasted less than 30 seconds. Well, that was easy enough, Martinez said, checking the bodies of the creatures. Tough armor, but nothing that good training and proper equipment can't handle. From the surface, Doctor was monitoring everything through the team's cameras. What he saw made him feel sick with worry and amazement at the same time. The humans moved through the dangerous tunnels like they owned them. When the creatures attacked creatures that had terrified his people into abandoning an entire colony, the humans fought them off like they were dealing with annoying insects. Jenna, he called to his assistant, are you recording this? Yes, sir, all of it. Doctor watched as the humans continued deeper into the tunnel system. They found more creatures and dealt with them efficiently. They explored chambers that would have sent coalition soldiers running in panic. They discussed tactics and strategies while casually avoiding attacks that would have killed most other species. The breeding chambers are probably deeper down, Sarah was saying as she examined claw marks on a wall. These look like territorial markings. We're still in the outer areas. Should we call for backup? Stevens asked after they had fought off another group of creatures. For this, Martinez laughed. My grandmother's cats are scarier than these things. Doctor had to sit down. These humans were treating the most dangerous predators his people had ever encountered like they were minor pests. They were making jokes while fighting for their lives. Sir, Jenna said quietly, should I contact the council? Yes, Doctor said faintly. Tell them we may have made a terrible mistake, or maybe the best decision we have ever made. I am not sure which yet. On the planet below, Sarah's team was mapping out the tunnel system and identifying the main creature nests. The job was going exactly as planned. We should have this cleaned up in a couple of days, Sarah reported to Doctor. Once we locate all the breeding areas, it's just a matter of systematic removal. Systematic removal, Doctor repeated weakly. Yeah, standard pest control procedure. We'll make sure we get all of them so they don't come back. Doctor realized that to humans, this entire operation was routine. They were not heroes bravely facing impossible odds. They were workers doing a job they had done many times before. The most terrifying part was how normal it all seemed to them. On the second day, everything changed. Sarah's team had cleared out 3 major tunnel sections and was feeling confident about the job. They had eliminated over 60 creatures and mapped most of the underground system. The work was going faster than expected. Then the creatures started fighting back intelligently. They're learning, reported over the radio. The next group we faced had changed their attack pattern. They're adapting to our tactics. Sarah studied the readings from her team's encounters. The creatures were definitely getting smarter about how they approached the humans. Instead of charging directly, they were using ambush tactics. They were setting traps. These aren't just animals, Martinez said during their evening break on the surface. They're problem solvers. Stevens nodded. The last group actually tried to flank us using passages we didn't know existed. That takes planning. Sarah contacted Doctor with the update. The creatures are more intelligent than we initially thought. They're adapting to our presence and changing their behavior. Doctor's voice came back immediately, full of worry. Does this mean you need to evacuate? Should we consider the colony a total loss? Evacuate? Sarah laughed. Doc, this just makes it more interesting. We deal with smart predators all the time back home. There was a long pause from Orbit. You do. Sure, bears, wolves, big cats, they all learn and adapt. The smart ones are actually easier to handle once you figure out how they think. Doctor was quiet for several minutes. Then his voice came back, very small and confused. Easier. The real challenge came on the third day, when the creatures organized a major coordinated assault. Sarah's team was deep in the tunnel system, working on clearing out what sensors indicated was a large breeding chamber. Suddenly, their motion detectors started going crazy. Contact from all directions, Stevens called out. They're coming from every tunnel at once. Estimated numbers, Sarah asked calmly, checking her equipment. At least 40, maybe more, reported. They're moving in organized groups. Martinez grinned. Just like that job in the Amazon when we had to deal with those angry jaguars. Remember that, Captain? Different species, same principle, Sarah agreed. Standard containment formation. Let them think they have us trapped. What followed was a battle that Doctor would later describe in his report as impossible to believe. 40 of the creatures attacked the 4 humans from multiple directions in a carefully planned assault. The humans won. Not only did they win, but they did it while discussing tactics and making jokes. They treated the entire situation like a training exercise. Can you get me a sonic reading on that big one in the back? Sarah asked while firing at 3 creatures that were trying to climb the walls. Got it. Frequency range is similar to what we'd use for wolf pack disruption, replied, throwing something that made a loud, painful sound. Several creatures stopped their attack and ran away. There we go, Martinez said happily. Just needed to find the right frequency to mess with their hearing. Doctor was watching everything through the camera feeds, and he was starting to understand something terrible and wonderful. These humans were not just surviving, they were having fun. Sir, Jenna said nervously, the council is asking for hourly updates. They want to know if we should prepare evacuation ships. Doctor looked at his screens, where 4 humans were systematically defeating 40 of the most dangerous predators his species had ever encountered. Tell the council that evacuation will not be necessary. But the biggest shock was still to come. On the 4th day, the humans found the deep chambers where the largest creatures lived. These were not like the dog-sized ones they had been fighting. These were much bigger and much more dangerous. Oh, now that's interesting, Sarah said as her team's lights illuminated a chamber the size of a gymnasium. In the center, something huge was moving. The creature that emerged from the shadows was larger than anything the coalition had ever imagined. It was the size of the colony's main building, with armor plates as thick as spaceship hull metal. Its eyes showed intelligence that was almost human-like. That, Stevens said with admiration, is a proper apex predator. Doctor's voice came through the communication system, high and panicked. Evacuate immediately. That creature is too large for your weapons to affect. Too large? Martinez asked, looking at the creature with professional interest. Doc, you should see some of the whales back home. This guy's big, but he's not whale big. You have creatures larger than this on your planet, Doctor's voice cracked. Blue whales can get up to 30 meters long, said helpfully while setting up some kind of device. This guy's maybe 8 meters, pretty big for a land predator but not crazy big. The creature roared and charged at them. The sound was so loud it made the tunnel walls shake. Okay, he's fast too, Sarah observed, dodging to one side. Stevens, can you get a reading on those armor plates? I want to know if they have any weak spots. What followed was the most one-sided fight in the recorded history of the Coalition. The creature was bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than anything they had on file. It should have been able to destroy a small army. Instead, 4 humans with Earth-standard equipment and Earth-standard tactics took it down in less than 20 minutes. They did not do it by overpowering the creature. They did it by outsmarting it. They used its size against it. They used its aggression against it. They used tactics that had been developed over thousands of years of humans dealing with large, dangerous animals. Controlled cave-in worked perfectly, Martinez reported as rocks fell on the creature's back legs, pinning it in place. Just like dealing with an angry rhino. Sonic disruptors are affecting its balance, added. It's having trouble coordinating its movements. And the pheromone trail Stevens found is leading it exactly where we want it to go, Sarah finished. Standard large predator management, nothing we haven't done before. When it was over, the creature lay still in the tunnel. It had been defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior tactics and experience. Doctor could not speak for a full minute after the fight ended. "Captain," he finally managed to say, "you have just defeated the largest predator ever recorded in Coalition space." "Really?" Sarah sounded surprised. "Felt pretty standard to us. I mean, it was well-armored and smart, but the basic principles are the same whether you're dealing with a bear or something like this." "You compare this creature to a bear." "Well, similar hunting patterns," Sarah explained. "Territorial, aggressive when threatened, uses size and strength to dominate. Pretty typical apex predator behavior." Doctor realized that humanity's definition of typical was going to require some serious adjustments to Coalition thinking. The colony was quiet now. Sarah's team had finished their sweep of the underground tunnels and was packing up their equipment. The job had taken 4 days, which was exactly what they had estimated. "All clear," Martinez reported as he carried the last of the sensors back to their shuttle. "No remaining life signs in any of the tunnel systems." Sarah nodded and opened her portable computer to fill out the final paperwork. Every job required a complete report, and Terra Dynamics prided itself on professional documentation. Doctor's shuttle landed nearby, and the alien scientist approached the humans nervously. He still could not quite believe what he had witnessed over the past 4 days. "The colony is safe?" he asked. "Completely secure," Sarah confirmed. "We eliminated the entire population of hostile creatures and sealed off the deep tunnel access points. You shouldn't have any more problems." Doctor looked around at the peaceful colony site. Just 5 days ago, this place had been considered too dangerous for any Coalition species to approach. Now these humans were talking about it like they had just finished mowing a lawn. "How many creatures did you eliminate?" he asked. Checked her scanner readings. 234 individual specimens, including the large alpha. Plus, we destroyed 17 breeding chambers and mapped the entire tunnel network for future reference. 234, Doctor repeated slowly. "And you lost no team members." "Lost team members," Stevens laughed. "Doc, we didn't even get seriously injured. Martinez got a small cut when he tripped over some equipment, but that's about it." Doctor stared at them. An entire species of apex predators had been eliminated by 4 individuals who were treating it like routine maintenance work. "I need to ask you something," Doctor said carefully. "On your Earth, are there many species like yours?" Sarah looked confused. "Like us how?" "Capable of what you have done here." Sarah thought about it. "Well, humans are pretty adaptable, but we're not special or anything. I mean, Earth has lots of species that are tougher than we are. We just learn to use tools and work together. Other species on your planet are tougher than humans." "Oh yeah," Martinez said cheerfully. "Polar bears, great white sharks, crocodiles, African elephants, they're all way more dangerous than humans in a straight fight. We just got smart enough to avoid straight fights." Doctor felt dizzy. If humans were not even the most dangerous species on their planet, what kind of world were they from? The job is complete, Sarah said, handing him a data pad. Here's our full report, including environmental recommendations for future colony operations. Doctor looked at the report. It was thorough and professional. It included suggestions for better tunnel monitoring, improved defensive systems, and wildlife management protocols. The humans had not just solved the immediate problem, they had created a complete solution for preventing future problems. There is one thing, Sarah added. We identified 17 other species in the local ecosystem that could potentially cause issues. Nothing as serious as what you just dealt with, but you might want to keep an eye on them. 17 other species. Doctor's voice was faint. Just normal wildlife management stuff, Sarah said casually. Most of them are probably harmless, but a few could become problems if their populations grow too large or if they change their behavior patterns. Doctor realized that the humans had not just dealt with the crisis. They had analyzed the entire planetary ecosystem and identified future potential problems that the coalition scientists had never even considered. 3 hours later, Sarah's team was back on the Cerberus, preparing to return to Earth. Sarah was finishing her paperwork when a message came through from Terra Dynamics headquarters. "Captain," came the voice of her supervisor, "congratulations on a job well completed. We've already received payment from the coalition, and I have some good news." "What's that?" "Word is getting around about your work out there. We've received 43 new contract requests in the past 2 days. Apparently, the galaxy has more wildlife management issues than anyone realized." Sarah smiled. 43 requests. Everything from pest control to large predator management to ecosystem analysis. Species all over known space are suddenly admitting they have problems with dangerous animals they've been too embarrassed to ask for help with. Martinez looked up from his equipment maintenance. "Sounds like job security." "There's more," the supervisor continued. "Earth government has decided to establish an official galactic wildlife management division. They want Terra Dynamics to head up the initial operations." "That sounds like a promotion," Sarah said. "It is. Congratulations, Director." Meanwhile, on Doctor's ship, the Coalition Council was holding an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of species were connected through faster-than-light communication, and they were all trying to understand what had just happened. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," said Council Leader. "These humans eliminated an entire population of Class A predators in 4 days, with no casualties, and they considered it routine work." "That is correct," Doctor said, "and they have offered to remain available for future wildlife management issues throughout Coalition space." "What do we know about their military capabilities?" asked representative from the system. Doctor had been preparing for this question. "Based on my observations, what we witnessed was not their military, it was their pest control." The silence that followed lasted for nearly a minute. "Pest control," representative repeated. They described their actions as standard wildlife management procedures. When I asked about their military, Captain said they were just contractors who handle animal problems. Council Leader's flower-like head swayed nervously. If their pest control specialists can eliminate apex predators that easily, what can their actual military do? Doctor had been wondering the same thing. "I do not think we want to find out. I suggest we make sure humans remain friendly to the coalition." "Agreed," said multiple representatives at once. Back on the Cerberus, Sarah was reading through the new job requests. Most of them sounded interesting and challenging. There was work available on dozens of different worlds, dealing with everything from small aggressive creatures to large ecosystem management projects. "Look at this one," Stephen said, reading over her shoulder. Some species called they are having problems with flying predators of unusual size that are attacking their transport vehicles. Flying predators, Martinez mused. Been a while since we dealt with flying predators. Looked up from her equipment. Remember that job in Australia with the territorial eagles? Similar principle probably applies. Sarah marked the job as interested and continued reading. The galaxy was a big place, and apparently it had a lot of wildlife issues that needed human-style solutions. She smiled. Business was going to be very good. 2 months later, Doctor published his official report on the 442C incident. It was immediately classified at the highest levels by the Coalition Council. The report included a new category for planetary species classification: survivors. Humans were the first species to receive this classification. They would not be the last, but they would always be remembered as the ones who taught the galaxy that sometimes the best solution to an impossible problem was to call someone for whom impossible problems were just another day at work.